When I was in the former Soviet Union, practically every institution, every college used to teach people two courses that were called scientific. No other course was called scientific. There was no scientific physics, scientific mathematics, but there were two scientific so-called courses. Guess what they were? Scientific communism and scientific atheism. That was the propaganda and the teachings of Russian Soviet universities. And in younger grades, by the way, in school also there was a huge amount of propaganda. We used to have something called political information. You used to come and listen. They would tell you about the aggressor, America, conquering Nicaragua and things like that, and you had to memorize all that. So whatever the case may be, what's interesting is that today in the leftist media, the situation is almost as bad. I mean, thankfully, we have freedom of speech in America, so there are other outlets also. So as opposed to the Soviet Union, where somebody who would try to argue with the official propaganda, he would end up in Siberia pretty soon, or maybe even executed if his speeches would be considered a treason to the motherland. Then he may be even executed. In other cases, he would be given long, difficult jail sentences that can also end up in death. For instance, the known Natan Sharansky, he was actually, the KGB used to scare him that they would execute him. For what? What did he do? Well, treason, since he was giving the Western reporters certain information about the real state of affairs in the Soviet Union, the real freedoms that they had. So this is considered treason, and treason was punishable by death sentence, by execution. In the end, they gave him a sentence, a prison sentence, and he wasn't executed. And of course, we know that now he lives in Israel. But my point is that at least it wasn't an impossibility. This was considered a sentence that at least could have been given. The law did allow such a sentence. If a person would be considered, his speeches would be considered treason, meaning through his speech he, I guess, entices people not to believe in the Soviet the Soviet propaganda, and that is considered treason in certain cases. So Baruch Hashem, thankfully in America we do not have such a bad situation, and nobody gets killed for going against the media. But that doesn't mean that the mainstream media, which is almost the entire media, now they're much weaker because of the social networking sites and the possibilities to say whatever you want on, let's say, Twitter. But in terms of the main large media outlets like CNN and New York Times and Washington Post, they more or less all use very similar methods to the Soviet propaganda. It's really unbelievable how much lies and distortions these monstrous outlets do. It's known that one of the people executed during the Nuremberg trials was actually a person who didn't kill anybody by hands. He didn't kill anybody. Julius Streicher. He was just a chief editor or something like that of the journal that was creating the situation that caused the deaths of so many Jews. I think it was called Streimer or something like that. There was a journal, there was a certain media outlet that the Nazi propaganda used. So a person who did propaganda was considered by the Allies just as guilty as the person who actually physically went and killed people. The point is, of course, I'm not advocating that the people who work for New York Times should be executed. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just trying to say that their guilt is very, very great. What they're doing is a lot of times making Jews, for instance, and not just Jews. I mean, a lot of people fall in for a lot of times, the policemen, a lot of lives that policemen lose due to the propaganda of the far left. A lot of people's deaths are basically on their conscience. It's them who cause this this situation by the scud, by their tremendously unfair coverage, and by doing the propaganda that they're doing, they really can cause death, and they have been causing deaths and injuries. This is absolutely horrid what's going on with the leftist media, and it's becoming worse and worse over time. It wasn't like that 30 years ago, and it was better than today 20 years ago. It kept getting worse and worse. And today it lost all moral compass. It has no morality whatsoever. Everything goes just to do their propaganda. So I'm a little bit scared, but the good things are that in the future I'm hoping that they keep losing their customers. Fewer and fewer people are listening to them. Fewer and fewer people trust them, and that's really the hope. That's really the great thing about the American system, that I guess the words of Churchill are coming true, that you can deceive everybody for a short time, or you could deceive certain groups of people for a long time, but you cannot deceive everybody for a long time. Time will come when the majority of people will realize that they've been fed lies, and I think this is happening in front of our eyes. I wouldn't be surprised if in my lifetime these long established outlets like New York Times, BBC, CNN, Washington Post, maybe some or all of them will simply disappear, will simply never exist again. This is really would be a fantastic thing if this would happen. And on this I'm gonna end. If you like this video, please press like, and please subscribe to our channel.